Hey guys, welcome to Technability, your source for no-nonsense tech. My name is Berj. We have a fantastic two-part comparison here for you guys today, and this is part one of the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 versus the Apple iPhone 8 Plus. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So in this part of the review or the comparison, I'm going to be going through hardware as well as some software features, and then in part two, I'm going to be basically completing the comparison with the rest of the software that I may not have covered in part one, as well as announcing a winner, which I usually don't do, but I am going to announce a winner, as well as let you know which phone better suits certain consumer markets, whether you're looking to upgrade your current phone or whether you're just buying a new smartphone, a high-end smartphone for the first time. So we'll be going through all that, but first I do want to mention that these are both their respective manufacturers' flagship devices. So the Note 8 would be Samsung's latest and greatest. The 8 Plus would be Apple's latest and greatest until, of course, the end of October, early November, when the iPhone 10, also known as the iPhone X, is released. So let's go ahead and get started here with the hardware. We're going to go ahead and look at both devices here. You could see the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 is a stunning device, all screen front. I believe it's about an 82.3 or 83.2% screen to body ratio, 6.3-inch Super AMOLED rendering, roughly about 521 pixels per inch. This is a 1440 by 2960 display. So absolutely stunning screen, color saturation, the whole 9 yards is absolutely phenomenal in my opinion. You're going to get beautiful viewing in direct sunlight. It has over 1,000 nits. So in direct sunlight, this thing is absolutely stunning to look at. And just overall, in terms of the way the phone looks, it's not as rounded as the Galaxy S8 and 8 Plus. It has more of a squared design in terms of the edges and the way the edges go around the phone, as well as the bezel. This is the Orchid Gray model. It comes in Orchid Gray, Midnight Black, Maple Gold, Deep Sea Blue, and soon to be Star Pink, or what they call Star Pink. Okay, so you can see the Orchid Gray, the bezel is silver, essentially, almost a grayish silver. You see the S Pen down below with the speaker, USB-C, and the 3.5mm headphone jack. And on the front, again, you have the 8-megapixel front-facing shooter, the proximity sensor, as well as the sensors for face recognition. You could see on the side here, you have the power button, volume rockers right along these sides here, and the most annoying button in the world, the Bixby button, which if you do enough research, you can disable, so that'll go away. You could see the SIM card tray also doubles up as an SD card slot, nothing else up top, and on the back, the dual 12-megapixel shooters with dual LED flash, the fingerprint scanner, as well as the all-glass back finish, which I have a protector on. However, this is a very delicate glass back finish, so put a protector on it if you can, in case these things are going to break, but they are replaceable if you ever do need to get it replaced. Just in terms of the design, this is a stunning phone. It's not quite as thin as the iPhone 8. I believe it is about 8.6 millimeters in thickness with a 3300 milliamp battery, still bigger than Apple's 2675 milliamp battery on the 8 Plus, but a little bit smaller than the Note 7 battery to ensure that there would be no issues with the battery. And again, you could see the curved display. Just an overall phenomenal looking phone. Feels good in the hand. Just has a premium feel to it, no doubt about it. And in my opinion, Samsung's nicest looking device, bar none, without a shadow of a doubt. Okay, this thing has Corning Gorilla Glass 5. You have 3D touch on the home button, an Exynos 8895 octa-core processor, I believe an international model, and a Snapdragon 835 in USA and China. The GPU would be an Adreno 540 if we're talking about the GPU here in the US. It has a, again, micro SD card slot, which takes up to 256 gigabyte SD. I don't know if it's going to take the 2 terabyte SDs that are coming soon, but I wouldn't doubt it. If it has to do with a software upgrade, that'd be nice. Internally, 64, 128, and 256, and 6 gigabytes of RAM. That is phenomenal, 6 gigabytes of RAM. Now, that's a lot of RAM, guys. It's, for one phone to have 6 gigs of RAM, some computers don't have 6 gigs of RAM. And again, this thing has a 3300 milliamp battery, so you're going to have good battery life with wireless charging, and it is IP68 certified water resistant. Okay, so there's the hardware. I'm going to leave it on its face here so you guys can see the back. And we're going to go ahead and look at the iPhone 8 Plus. So again, this is Apple's latest and greatest. There's nothing better if we're talking iPhones currently in the market until the X is released. All right, this is roughly about 7.5 millimeters in thickness, so a little bit thinner Then the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 IP67 certified dust and water resistant with a 5.5 inch LCD Retina display. It's 1080p rendering 401 pixels per inch. But I gotta tell you guys, the color saturation on this device is actually pretty phenomenal for LCD. The viewing angles have always been great on iPhones. I just feel iPhone LCDs have been superior to other manufacturers who have manufactured LCDs on their phones, on high-end smartphones. In the case of the 8 Plus, it's definitely no slouch. In direct sunlight, you're going to get a little bit above 600 nits. So great viewing in direct sunlight, great color saturation. You do have True Tone technology, which allows you to make the tone of the screen a little bit warmer and just a little bit more realistic, I suppose. I like my tones to be cold, so I leave that off. But just an overall phenomenal screen for an LCD 1080p. And that just goes to show you that the OLED display that they're releasing with the X is most likely going to be really nice. So we'll get into that once the X is actually released. Okay, so this has an A11 Bionic CPU chipset, Apple GPU, 3-core graphics with 3 gigs of RAM, 64 256 internal, and it has, I believe, a 12 megapixel rear camera, dual optical image stabilization with the flash. On the front, you do have a 7 megapixel front-facing camera, and the rear does record in 4K, so you do get 4K video recording, of course. And you have wireless charging on this as well now. That has a lot to do with the all-glass back, which is very slippery, very delicate, doesn't have the text on the bottom that you would normally get with iPhones. You can see the back. I definitely would get a protector for this back, a case or some sort of tempered glass or just something that goes over it to avoid scratches. The sides are matte finish. On the bottom you can see the speaker with the lightning port, no 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, so they stuck with the design of the 7 and 7 Plus with the headphone jack. Volume rockers, vibrate mode, nothing up top. Over here you have the power button and the SIM card tray. So in terms of the iPhone design, it definitely, I mean, it's what you're used to with the Plus model iPhones. And it does, which isn't to say it isn't a nice design. It's a great design. I'm going to use face recognition here on the Note if I can get it to work. Nope, too far from it. Which doesn't mean it's not a nice design, but a little bit outdated, I suppose. You can see the home button on the bottom, taptic feedback, so it's not an actual clicky home button, which I covered in my iPhone 8 Plus quick review. So taptic feedback on the home button, and just putting them on top of each other. You can see how they look. The Note is a little bit longer, of course has a bigger screen, 5.5 versus the 6.3 on the Note, AMOLED versus LCD. You know, but again, I do want to mention that the iPhone does have an impressive LCD display, so it doesn't mean that it's a bad quality LCD display. They're just going LED for a reason with the X, because that is the future. The only thing that I warn you guys of with LED, and this doesn't happen to everybody, but it does have a tendency of getting screen burn, where basically you get like a burn image of your icons or sometimes your widgets and texts. So given that the iPhone is all grids of icon, a grid of icons, screen burn may be more prevalent. Now, Apple is claiming that that technology is, that they have some sort of technology that's going to deter it from getting screen burn, but Samsung has had the same similar technology, and to this day, a lot of my Samsung phones still get screen burn. So not a true thing for everybody, but it does happen. All right, going through the software real quick. You got Android 7.1.1 with Samsung TouchWiz, or also known as Samsung Experience. And of course, you have iOS 11 here with the iPhone 8 Plus. And just in terms of their overall fluidity, both are very fast phones. Okay, I'm just going to open and close out of some apps here. Email. So no doubt they're both very fast phones, and they both, you know, they're both going to be perfectly fine for the average user who just wants to get in and out of apps quickly, hassle-free. Of course, you have multitasking here on the Samsung, which we'll get into in part 2. And multitasking here on the iPhone as well. Okay, so notification bars, you could see that with the toggles. The toggles here would be on the control center, which you can't adjust on the Samsung. You can edit them. All right, and just going through the screens, both very responsive to my touch, literally immediate to my touch, so no issues there in terms of its speed. All right, guys, so that's everything I wanted to cover here with part 1. Part 2 will go in depth into the software as well as the camera, so stay tuned for that, guys. This is the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 and iPhone 8 Plus. Stay tuned for part 2. Thank you guys for watching.